As a preliminary matter, this is Woody Knight, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members are in persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Peter Pecos.
Yes, sir.
Larry Murphy.
Sure.
Scott Kinter.
Yes.
Steve Mangian.
Yes.
And town staff, Kristen Grubbs, Planning Director.
Yes.
Martha Taylor, Special Projects Planner.
Yes.
Sadie Woodward, Assistant Planner.
Yes.
Very good. Good evening. Today is February 4th, 2026. Open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A-20, until June 30th, 2027. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found at the town's website. You may join us by going to http://zoom.us and entering the meeting ID number 832-7141-3056, and the passcode is 108790, or by calling in 1-929-205-6099 US and entering the meeting ID number and passcode when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and or telephone conference. The meeting is also being broadcast live through local access cable channel 9 and on Zoom and at newburytv.wixsite.com/TNCTV. And the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting business ground rules. Before we turn on the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I'll go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. For all attendees, please remember to mute your audio when you are not speaking. On Zoom, use the mute button. On the phone, use *6 to toggle to mute and unmute. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during the public hearing. I will see questions and comments from the members of the public through the Zoom raised hand function. Video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the image of a hand that appears. Please ensure that your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participation list. Telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone keypad. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address, and then may ask questions or make their comments. Please do your best to keep your comments and questions to 3 minutes or less. The hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. I'll afford the applicant or representative the opportunity to reply. Should there be a written submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. The applicant will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So that's the opening statements. We'll go to liaison and meeting reports. We'll start with ZBA. Larry?
Really don't have anything to report tonight, Woody, other than the regular meeting is on February 19th. And I'll have probably have more for our next meeting once the agenda is posted.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Larry. Conservation Commission, that would be myself. We had a meeting last night, and the only thing that pertained to us that I recall on the agenda was 34 Central Street. And they requested a continuance to our next meeting, which will be in March. We're only meeting once a month through the month of April. So we'll see 34 Central Street in March. I don't recall the actual day, but it'll be the first Tuesday of March. And then we have MVPC, Kristen.
We, neither the commissioners nor the planners, the regional planners group has met since our last meeting, so I don't have any updates there.
Okay, very good. Meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes for January 21st, 2026? And are there any comments or corrections?
I do have one thing, Woody.
Yes.
On page 3, the motion to continue the public hearing on 2 to 8 Old Point Road. It has an incorrect date that the motion was to continue it to January 21st. Should be today's date, February 4th, excuse me.
Okay. So we'll note that. Any other comments or corrections on the meeting minutes for January 21st? All right, hearing none, I did entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 21st, 2026 with the date correction that Larry mentioned.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Pete. Roll call vote. Peter?
Yes. Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And Steve?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that's the meeting minutes. I have 7:08. So we have 7 minutes before our public hearing. Kristen, would you like to jump ahead and start the players report? Would that be all right with you?
Sure, happy to.
Okay.
I don't actually have any updates because tonight's agenda is full, and I would have said this is what I've been spending time on. But Sadie and I did talk about a couple other things. So I don't know, Sadie, if you're ready to make those updates.
Talk a little bit about what was going on today. So I'm sure you guys have heard us talk about the Boston Road Route 1 intersection. We have been working on applying to the regional MPO boards FADS program. So it's like a grant program for design work for projects related to infrastructure, housing, things like that. So we think that that would be a perfect project for this type of grant. So we've been working with DPW to get that squared away, and we're thinking we'll apply or send in the application tomorrow to get it in by the due date. So that, fingers crossed that works out. And then, as Kristen mentioned earlier, ACES is holding they've been putting together this regional effort, waste reduction effort called Waste Watchers. And they're having a workshop next Wednesday at 9 at the Parker River Refuge headquarters on Plum Island. So I'll be attending that, which is exciting. They've been really great at getting together some really good regional stakeholders, engaging lots of different people in different realms of environmental protection. So I'm excited to see what they will have going on at that workshop. And yeah, those are my updates. So I've been pretty busy, but yeah.
Thanks, Sadie. Yeah, it's just another note, a couple other notes about that workshop is the state has actually set forth goals for waste reduction by 2030. So I think this is sort of being driven by the city of Newburyport with the Alliance for Climate Stewards, just to raise awareness about that. Talk with municipalities. So it's all of the regional municipalities who are gathering on Wednesday. And I think this is going to be a series of discussions. I think that the second discussion that will happen later this spring will also be including some of the private entities that are involved in waste management. As you all know, as Newbury residents, we bring our own waste unless we partner with or unless we hire waste management companies to pick up at our doorstep. So in one way or another, we're relying on waste management as a partner in the work of the municipality, since most of the waste gets moved out of town rather than staying in Newbury. So it'll just be an interesting discussion. I know Newbury has been the beneficiary of some small grant money related to sort of waste reduction and recycling initiatives. But Sadie and I are still really learning a lot about this. And I believe the select board is also sending a representative to this meeting. I think Leslie Matthews has raised her hand for that. So it'll be something that at all levels of, the municipality will be sort of carrying on the discussion, and we'll keep the planning board informed.
Very
And I
good.
do think there was a little summary article about it on the Daily News, I believe, yesterday, if you're looking for more info. That's it.
If I could, Woody, so Kristen, is
Oh,
there
yeah.
any, investigation about, in this waste reduction to really go after composting and really make that something as a really valuable target?
I don't know yet. I certainly know that that's been, there's been a lot of work on that in the city of Newburyport. It's definitely something Sadie and I have talked about. I know what's the compost company that picks up at your
Black Earth.
Black Earth? Yeah. I've seen some of those around Newbury, but we've also been discussing how, with single family zoning, most people have some kind of yard. So sort of enhancing education around composting is something Sadie and I are certainly interested to sort of talk regionally about. Yeah. Are you a composter, Pete?
Yeah, just, one of those things that, I think we're kind of an agricultural based community. So it makes sense to really try to promote that or facilitate that, not on a regional, but maybe on a community
Personal.
basis, right? I mean, we have a transfer station. Is there something that we could enhance there? I know we've touched on it a couple times, so maybe it's an opportunity for a discussion.
If I may, Woody, that may go hand in hand with a yard waste component, which is certainly an issue for Plum Island, where we can't do open burning like you can on the mainland. And might I also note that if we're looking at waste reduction, and just in terms of measuring it, whether it be cubic yards or tons, I often marvel how at the transfer station there's no indication who is going there, because it certainly doesn't seem to be limited to Newbury residents. And I'm not saying that's bad, but if we're finding out that the cost of recycling the cardboard and the tin cans and the glass is going up and up and up, we might want to start thinking about our limiting the waste stream to Newbury people as well.
Some good points. And I like the name Waste Watchers. So it's catchy, and it's not where your belt goes either. So all right, I have 7:15, so we'll get started on our first public hearing. All good stuff, Kristen and Sadie, thank you. Public hearing continuance, 2-8 Old Point Road. Level 2 site plan review. Application for as-built construction changes to approved site plan of record that a proposed new 40 by 40 pavilion structure at the Sunset Club at 2-8 Old Point Road. Assessors map U02-0-153A. Owner, the Cottages Commercial LLC, Vincent Godin, manager. Welcome, Vincent Godin, and Steve Sawyer, if you're here from Millennium Engineering. Would you like to update the planning board with a description of new materials submitted and other updates since our last meeting?
Yeah,
Floor is
hi,
yours.
it's Vincent Godin. Steve unfortunately is tied up at a meeting in Newburyport, an in-person meeting, so he will not be able to attend today. I was going to share kind of what was submitted if I can.
Yep.
Oh, let me see if I'm allowed here. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. So I guess there was two issues regarding lighting that really came up at the last meeting. One regarding the existing light schedules on what is existing, as well as then a more of a description on what the lighting will look like for the pavilion that is getting added. So I had a chance to get together with the my partners that run the restaurant and manage the lighting and all that, and we kind of dug into the system that we have, and it was kind of two different systems. There's one online system that does all the lighting that was approved and added at the original approvals, and then there was a timer added about a year ago to the illuminated sign. That was one of those kind of old school, you kind of put the little tick in and it does the timing that way. We had the electrician come by and look at that particular one because clearly it still was illuminating the sign, even though it wasn't supposed to. It turns out that it was defective. He has since added it to our electronic system so that we can control the lighting very specifically on schedules through the online system. So then I went in and I kind of discussed with them where the zones were, as well as I then had a discussion with my insurance agent, who also had a discussion with the insurance company to just have a better understanding, because I just wanted to make sure, what kind of risks and liabilities do I have if a site is completely dark, or do I have a minimum amount of lighting that I need to maintain to avoid any sort of litigation if somebody were to get, trip and fall or attacked on site. And so what came out of that was there needs to be some sort of basic safety lighting. But what we came up with internally was, on a go-forward basis, the illuminated sign will only be illuminated during business hours. The bistro lights under the sales, and it looks like I spelled sales wrong, sorry about that, will only be illuminated during business hours. There are then lights in the parking lot that just illuminate very, very basic lighting so that you're not pitch black walking through there, as well as a few lights, all dark sky compliant, that lead to the main building. And there was a couple of reasons that we need the main ingress egress, because even once the business is closed, there are sometimes employees that stay later, whether it's to do prep for the following day or to just clean up. And those hours vary, can be 2 o'clock in the morning, can be 11 o'clock at night. So we were advised that we should have some sort of ingress egresses for any late employees or early employees, as well as any sort of safety issue. Police needed to be on site, or fire. They could, not be tripping all over the walkway. So that's what was discussed on that side. And so I figured before we get into the pavilion, I just wanted to open that up to the board to see if they had any questions on the existing light schedule.
Okay, great. Thanks, Vince. I'll start with Pete. Pete, do you have any questions for Vince?
And Vince, I think that's great that the modification has been done here. Now, so the post lights that are throughout the seating area, will those be going down at nighttime too? So basically, the entire seating area, the bistro lights, and so
Yes.
Okay, so all the post
Let
lights.
let me put this. I think I've got the plan here. Let me see if it'll show up. Can you see the plan now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So there's one set of lights that kind of runs along right here that would stay illuminated. It's like three little lights that just do down lighting so that the path can be seen from the building to the exit. And then there's along the fence, there's these little lights that just face straight down that illuminate, gosh, maybe 2 feet off of the fence, just enough to give some understanding of where you are.
Great. So basically, all of the lighting in the seating area would be minimized or off. Because now there's about
Yeah,
6 or
so
8
there's
lights.
right now there's some lighting that goes
Yeah.
down this boardwalk. Those wouldn't
Right.
be illuminated. They wouldn't
Okay,
be
cool.
needed as well as these right here.
I think that's a great help to the environment. Thanks, Vincent.
No problem. And one other change that we did make, because part of the reason we realized that the schedule was getting messed up, was we had it set to a certain amount, but when somebody was staying late or something was happening, whoever it was that was manager on site would just override it and just put it to on, and then nobody would realize that, and then the thing would just sit it on indefinitely, not realizing it. So one thing we did institute is my partner Jeff, who is one of the owners of the property, lives right over here, and he's been given access to the system as well. So, everyone that works at the restaurant, my partners that run it, aren't on the island late at night, so they don't realize if things are on at later than they should be. But Jeff, living right there, if he sees anything, will now be able to log in and make any sort of modifications that need to happen so that it kind of sticks to the schedule.
Okay, great. Any other questions, Pete? Hearing none. I can't see Pete, so. Larry, do you have any questions for Vince?
I do not.
All right. Scott, do you have any questions for Vince?
I have no questions, and I appreciate the efforts here, Vincent, and of course Jeff's stewardship on the future lighting. Appreciate that.
Good. Steve, do you have any questions for Vince on what's been discussed so far?
No, I do not. I will be trying to think about the totality of lighting once we get through the pavilion.
Okay,
So
great.
maybe some reservations in reserve.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And I understand the egress lighting that's going to remain on. It's important that exists for when it's needed. So it's understandable, and it sounds like a good plan so far. If you want to carry on, Vince.
Yep. Okay. Next, I'll get into the pavilion lighting, just so that it's we'll cover it now. The lighting under the pavilion will be treated the same as the bistro lights and the illuminated sites lights, where it would only be illuminated during business hours as well. So that'll be tied into the same automatic turn off, and would not be on past business hours. So we met with our lighting professional, the same one that did all the other lighting on site, and we pretty much talked to him about what was discussed the last time. Now that the pavilion is more open in the gables, to remove all of the uplighting and just do some downlighting. And we just kind of had some discussions with him on, what is standard for kind of an outdoor exterior hospitality dining. And he kind of pulled up the what he calls the IES, the Illuminating Engineering Society. I guess they are a nonprofit that kind of puts together kind of the code that is utilized by most states and a lot of building codes for what are the proper amount of lighting for certain situations. And what they put is for a patio hospitality is 5 to 20 average foot candles. What he described is usually it's more if it's restaurant, less if it's just kind of outdoor patio seating area. What we talked to him about was seeing what would be kind of the minimum we could go to, which I guess is the 5, because I guess anything below 5 is what they call unsafe and doesn't make it possible for people to do simple things like reading a menu or be able to kind of see too far in front of them who people are and whatnot. So what we made the decision is let's just go for the minimum, the 5, to illuminate under the pavilion area. And all right. And so these are the lights that are going to get used. They're actually less than the prior ones that had been proposed. You can see here they're kind of shielded and they go in a downward direction. And so this kind of shows the average foot candle based off of the distance. And so we'd be at about 10 feet. And that's where he said that'd be about 5 foot candles of lighting on average per light. And so he put together a little visual to kind of show the way the light would illuminate. So essentially the light is not illuminating past these particular areas. We tried to make sure he kept it within the pavilion area, so no light is kind of seeping out past that. And this provides an average of 5 foot candles throughout the pavilion area, all in a downward facing, dark sky compliant. I had him send me a picture. I can't remember where he said he installed this. Somewhere in Massachusetts. He did this in a back patio of somebody's home. So you can kind of get a sense that it illuminates up to a certain area, and then it's dark from that point on. So that's kind of the feel of what it'll look like under there. And that's the plan for the lighting now for the pavilion.
Any questions from board members at this time? The questions on the pavilion lighting?
I'll just comment. I think that's great, Vince. I think that's exactly what the board was looking for. Something controlled and downward. Yep.
Very good, I agree.
Yeah.
Quote with the picture here, it looks good.
And Vince, if I understand it, those lights are basically mounted on the lower rafters,
Correct.
not up in the gable, not high in
No,
the gable.
no. So they're kind of hidden from see if I can go back up here. Yeah, they're kind of behind the rafters, so they're not even really visible and facing downward.
Right. So being placed low, this not and downward beaming, they're not likely to be, shall we say, illuminating the louvers. So
No, they definitely will not. They're if you saw from earlier, they're shielded so that there's no light that the light only is directed downward.
right. Thank you.
Very good. In that way too, you're seeing the light where it's supposed to be, and you're not seeing the picture at all. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I made sure he gave a picture because it was tough to tell with just kind of the way he showed. That was more just to show where the light, how far it goes. But I think this gives a good picture of kind of showing how it really does stop at a certain point and doesn't illuminate past there.
Very good.
Woody, I just had a quick clarifying question. Just Vincent, I'm sorry if I missed it, but there are going to be 5 lights.
No, I
Or-
believe it was 12 total. In order to get the average, so there's 3, and then you can see it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 deep. So it's 3 wide, 4 deep.
Okay. What I'm not, I know you said the word 5, an average of 5. What can
Yes.
you just, what does that mean?
So foot candles are essentially how much illumination. It's just the common term that's utilized for how bright. To give an example, I actually ordered one of those light things from Amazon that can kind of test lights, and Jeff went around to like to a house and stood in their front porch where they had their lights on, and they had 10-foot candles of light. So this would be half of a residential, I guess, light. It's just the way they kind of grade how the lighting is.
Got it. I was hearing that word differently. I was hearing 5 foot candles instead of 5-foot candles. Thank you for clarifying. 12. There's going to be 12. Got it. Thanks.
Very good. Anything else right now, Vince?
No, I think that was the 2 main issues that had come up last week for discussion this week. So
Yep.
glad to answer any other questions.
Okay. If no other planning board members have any questions at this time, I'd go to Kristen. Do we have any written comments?
There just was one comment submitted by email from Linda Wood of address 7 10th Street, and her comment was about lighting. My question is about lighting on a dark evening when approaching Plum Island by car. Will the lighted pavilion and parking lot be highly visible? I think that might shock some residents. I did look at the visuals, but I didn't see how the plan would look in darkness approaching our special island.
Okay. Do we have any raised hands from the public?
I do not see any.
Okay. And do you have any other comments? ZBA decision letter? Was that another correspondence that we received?
Yep, I did share with the planning board. The written decision was submitted by the ZBA chair and filed with the town clerk. So it just sort of described the decision of the ZBA related to the pavilion. It did include some details like related to the louvers and the color of the pavilion, I believe, being gray and wooden. So there's some details there that we'll be sure to, make sure is consistent with any decision that the planning board chooses to move forward with.
Okay. Does anyone from the planning board have any other additional questions about anything on this before we go to site plan review decision criteria?
Yeah, I've got a couple, Woody.
Okay, I didn't see a hand raised. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No problem. Some of it's housekeeping. Just as a reminder, at the last meeting, I asked some questions about drainage and the catch basin, and working with Kristen and the conservation agent and Joe Swartka. However, indirectly, those concerns were allayed. So I no longer have or want to leave on the table any issues about the drainage. I think that got cleared up. A minor housekeeping thing is that when I was looking at the application, I noticed there was reference made to, the Plum Island Business District or some such language, and there isn't one. I just wanted to keep that in mind for the record, that we don't have a business district on Plum Island. Regarding lighting, some of my near neighbors similarly voiced some concerns about lighting issues, and they were not willing to write a letter or anything like that. So these like unattributed concerns about lighting as they come and go in the island. So it's sort of the massive, concern that people have. And one other thing that, again, my near neighbors brought up, and some of this would go back to the original application many years ago, about, the potential for congestion and that sort of thing resulting from, the business and how the traffic was handled. I mean, obviously, we've made some breakthroughs on that. But I'm right now where the pavilion's going to go, I think of it as the bocce court. It isn't really a seating area. So I guess I'm asking for confirmation that the seating area, and I'm not going to get down in the weeds of how many people sit at a picnic table, but the anticipated seating for guests is the same. Does that sound
Yes.
right to you, Vincent?
Yes, yes. The only thing that will be happening is tables will get moved around, and the bocce sets will probably stay under there most of the time, and unless the tables need to get put under there.
Yeah. Okay, and lest I sound too negative, I'll say I get the idea of the merchandise shack and the storage shed and how they're appropriate to have. So let me end on that all positive note. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else have any questions? Pete,
Woody,
Larry? Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Good. Thanks, Woody. Along the lines of housekeeping, I did read the ZBA position statement, and I understand that the pavilion will be gray and will be complementary to the wood post. And I think in keeping with that, so this would be kind of blending in with the environment. I think the board would probably want to put in its decision that there shouldn't be any colored banners, there shouldn't be any kites, there shouldn't be anything hanging from the pavilion. It should be just be the freestanding structure that has been described to us. So I think that would just be my own housekeeping component. But I think the color scheme is great, and I think it'll blend in nicely. So thank you, Vincent.
No problem. I did have one other comment that not really related to my site, but I know a lot of people have had some issues with the light when they drive on the island. And one of the things when Jeff was kind of testing around with the meter, even when we were turning on and off the lights at the property, when you stand at that intersection, all the light comes from that overhead light. I know down in Florida, especially in turtle season, they all have dark sky compliant lighting, especially for the turtle hatches, so that they don't get attracted to the light. I don't know if it's something that the planning board could look into, seeing if maybe there's a way that we could get some of the street lighting then a little bit more dark sky compliant, because I think that would really help that corner a lot more than, especially once, our business is closed and the lights are off. But even when the business is open, the vast majority of the light at that intersection ends up being that one overhead light. So I think it could be something that maybe the board could look into doing for the island.
Okay, very good. I know some streetlights are pretty bright, and I see different bulbs in different areas, and I don't really know that much about it, but I know that they're on once it gets dark out. So, all right. Would the planning board like to review the site plan review decision criteria? Sound good to everyone? Kristen could pop that up.
Sure. Is that visible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. What do you do? Just want me to kind of talk us through this a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. First thing I want to mention is just for everyone's information. This is our zoning bylaw, and it is available online through eCode. And there is a link to this from the planning board webpage. So just a reminder, all of this is publicly accessible very easily. Site plan review is a special regulation in Article 9 of the bylaw. So there's, purpose and review thresholds. This project, as you remember, is a level 2 site plan review. So what we want to look at today is the decision criteria. Planning board shall approve an application for site plan review if it finds the applicant has submitted sufficient information from which it can determine that the proposed project will. So first letter A is minimize, cut and fill, trees removed, wetland vegetation displaced, soil erosion, and air and water pollution and traffic congestion. I think we've sort of talked about each of these. I don't know if anyone wants to comment about them or if I should sort of analyze.
No, if anyone has any comments, just speak up as we go through this. And I would just keep going, Kristen.
Letter B, removal of stone walls, and there are none. Letter C, provide adequate stormwater management and utilities. We've discussed stormwater, and this was also reviewed when it was in front of the Conservation Commission, stormwater, the Newbury stormwater bylaw. Maximizing safety for pedestrians and vehicles. We've talked about that a little bit tonight. Provide adequate access to each structure for fire and emergency service equipment. Minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations.
Kristen, just to jump in, that's one thing that some of my neighbors have commented on to me in terms of the mass of the structure, which would come up with F and G as well. So I just want to maybe come back to that for more discussion.
Okay.
Yep, so that's F. Minimize, G is minimize visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, or other outdoor service areas viewed from public ways or premises residentially used or zoned. All of this area is residentially zoned. Number H, letter H, minimize intrusion of glare from headlights and site lighting on surrounding properties and minimize light pollution using dark sky compliance standards. Letter I, minimize unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from public ways and places. Letter J, prevent contamination of groundwater from any source. K, enhance the appearance of the property to the greatest degree possible by means of landscaping and other site amenities. L, minimize impacts of the use on adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operation, deliveries, noise, rubbish removal, and on-site storage. And M, ensure compliance with the provisions of Newbury's zoning bylaw, including parking and signs. And lastly, letter N, utilize energy, water, resource efficient design to the greatest degree possible, including appropriate building orientation, landscape design, use of solar, other energy collection apparatuses, electric vehicle charging stations, LED light fixtures, and use of resource efficient materials and energy and water efficient systems.
Okay, great. Is there anyone have any other comments on this? So everyone's satisfied.
Let me try this again. Again, some of my neighbors have commented on the music, which I understand the select board is authorized from till 8 p.m. and for the rest of the year. And that's the plan to be maintained, right, Vincent? If I can put the question to you.
Yes, every year the restaurant has to go back in front of the select board, and obviously if anyone has any issues at the time, they bring them up there. There was one year where there was an issue brought up that unfortunately was more of a training issue from a manager that allowed somebody to set up with their equipment facing towards the island and at way too high of a volume. And those procedures have since been resolved. And that was, I believe, 2 years ago. And we haven't had a single complaint or issue since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that the Riptide, I think, sometimes has later hours for music, but the physical setup down there is that they've got a backdrop with concrete that sort of controls the sound of music emanating from the rest of the island, whereas your place is much more open, and I think that was the concern that people were voicing to me, and I'm trying to carry on here for you. But I get it. 8 p.m. seems very reasonable.
Yeah, and just to point out, we don't do any sort of planned weekly multi-time per week. It's really just if there's any sort of special events. So we try not to make it something that is regular.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Vince. So at this point, would the planning board like to request that Kristen and Sadie start drafting a decision that we can go over at the next meeting?
I would make that recommendation.
Excuse me, Woody, you've got a raised hand, I think, from Linda Wood.
Okay. I'll get to that in 1 sec. Thanks, Steve.
Sorry.
Would you say, Pete?
Yeah, I would encourage that the board direct staff to start writing a decision.
Okay. Very good. We have a raised hand, Linda Wood. Would you please identify yourself and your address?
Hi,
for the record?
this is Linda Wood from 710th Street, longtime Plum Island resident. I did look at the renderings online, and what I wasn't sure about was how the lighting would look as we approach Plum Island, say from the airport. Is it going, and especially about the parking lot lights, is it going to be like, I don't want it to look like Vegas. Let's put it like that. I want it to be very subtle. So maybe someone can comment on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Linda. As stated by Vince, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everything's downward facing lighting. The majority of the lighting will be off during when the business isn't open. and it's all Dock Star compliant. So,
And no additional lighting is being added to the parking lot. Right now, it's just some very subtle downlights. The only lighting that's being added is to the pavilion. I'm not sure if you were on when I showed it. I could share my screen. It's really going to give more of a glow of a outdoor patio.
Yeah,
It's-
I did see the lighting in the pavilion, and it looked like it was,
yeah, I
down
just put it back
lighting.
up.
That was
Yeah.
sweet. But it was just like as we go onto the island, we don't want to see something like too brash. So thank you for that. And I'm glad to hear that the parking lot lighting is not more increased than it is now.
okay. All right, thank you very much, Linda, for your comments. So if no one else has anything, the only thing I thought of too was, it was mentioned at the last meeting that you did have, some vehicles rolling through the parking lot at night. My suggestion to that would be putting up some yellow plastic chain at the entrance to deter that, and plastic chain because then it's not a liability of a hard chain and the fire trucks can drive right through it. So that was my only addition to this. And other than that, I think the lighting looks great, Vince. Thank you for your presentations. I guess now I would entertain a motion to continue this public hearing Kristen, we're not going to have, you're not going to be ready for our next meeting, so we could give you till March 4th for the decision. You'll have a solid decision by then.
Yeah, I do think it would be tough to get a decision written by next Wednesday, which would be the policy deadline for the next meeting. But I think early March is fine, and that would, give some time to, check in with the applicant if there are questions, and then bring a draft decision back to the board. That's in pretty good shape.
Okay, very good. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 2-8 Old Point Road site plan review to March 4th, 2026 at 7:15 via Zoom.
Motion.
Thank you, Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. That was Steve, correct?
Yes.
Roll call vote. Pete,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Thank you, Vincent. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the 4th, okay?
Have a good night.
All right, I'm gonna jump around a little bit on the agenda now. I'm gonna go to old business first. Potential zoning amendments for the annual town meeting 2026. Do we have Ian Burns with us this evening? I'd like to welcome Ian.
Me too.
Hi.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Would you like to start us off tonight with the work for the new inclusionary zoning bylaw?
Yeah, be happy to.
Thank you.
So for the record, Ian Burns with the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. I'm here to speak on the proposed inclusionary zoning bylaw amendment, a potential amendment that you all are considering for town meeting this year. If it works, I can share my screen to show you the draft bylaw as it currently states and kind of work through it. But happy to take questions as we scroll through some of the key components. I can just give a quick summary and then we can discuss if that works for you.
Yes.
You pull up the bylaw here. So I have here a clean version of the most recent edits we've been working through. So just as background, as you all know, I came and met with you all earlier in the fall when we started this inclusionary zoning process and looking at the potential bylaw amendment. Since then, myself, my colleague Kayla Renning, and we've been working with Kristen and everyone in the planning department there to bring together a new draft zoning bylaw. This has been also reviewed by town council as we work through the process. And so All of this has been gone through a couple of different iterations. I think you've all been updated as we went along, but I'll give you a summary. I'll scroll through some of it. Happy to pause if you have questions that come up, or if you want, we can wait till the end and chat about it as a whole. So the first page here, looking at purpose, process, and applicability, really the basics of it as to why we're doing it, trying to increase the town's affordable housing stock, especially as it relates to your subsidized housing inventory and getting more units on your subsidized housing inventory, but helping also residents below 100% median income. Process, a section that we added to make it a bit more clear as to how this would operate in reality when an applicant applies for a project. So as you'll see later on, there are density bonuses for applicants where they can add market rate units in exchange for an affordable unit. And through that process, they have to potentially have a change to their dimensional standards to accommodate for the density bonus. As a piece of that, they're essentially going to have to present to you all on how they propose adjusting those dimensional standards to comply with the density bonus, and you all would essentially have to vote on a finding saying that they do comply with the changes necessary in order to accommodate the additional affordable unit. But that'll make a bit more sense when we talk about the actual mechanisms for affordability later on. Applicability, we talked about this a few months ago about how you could have different thresholds for inclusionary zoning. As you know, in your MBTA communities overlay district, the threshold is 10 units or more. Here, we're proposing 4 units or more. Importantly, as kind of an overarching comment for this proposal as a whole, one of the things we're looking at is incentivizing the inclusionary zoning instead of requiring that. So what that means is that a developer does not have to include affordable units in their development. They have the option to, but we are incentivizing them through density bonuses, as we'll discuss later. So although the threshold here is lower than in your MICMOD, it is optional. And so there are different ways that the developers can choose to incorporate the affordable units. But 4 units or more is the threshold before they decide to apply the density bonus. And then some general language that you see across pretty much any inclusionary zoning bylaw, clarifying that this applies to residential development, but not other types of residences such as rehab centers and nursing homes. Segmentation, where a developer can't come in and build 1 unit every year under separate applications to avoid any type of inclusionary zoning option. And then a few other boilerplate issues to cover for IZ itself. Definition section, going through all the terminology of affordable units and the process. I'm not going to go through each definition here, but I'm happy to speak to it kind of within each section when we get to some of the key terms. But a lot of it dealing with the process that would be required of a developer to get an affordable unit on the subsidized housing inventory and the different technical pieces of the qualifying unit being on the subsidized housing inventory in town. So the bulk of the next few sections talk really about what the policy is and how it's implemented. So in summary, what we're looking at is saying that if a developer wants to add, wants to include an affordable unit, then we'll reward that with allowing them to add an additional market rate unit. So when a developer comes in, first, if they want to use this policy, they have to do essentially a yield plan to demonstrate what the maximum amount of units they could build under the existing zoning is. And so they'd look at, let's say it's a subdivision with the minimum lot sizes. They'd say, this is the amount of units that I could build traditionally, but we want to add an affordable unit. And so we're going to be allowed to add an affordable and a market rate within the subdivision. So we would be changing it from, let's say, a 6-unit development to a 7-unit development because they get the bonus market rate unit in order to include an affordable unit. So they come forward to you all, say, traditionally, we'd only be allowed to build this much, but we're doing an extra unit. And that's why we are rewarded with the extra market rate unit. So this section talking a lot about how that process might work and how they might identify it. A few things to mention in terms of the affordable units themselves. First, as a baseline, we recommend setting them at 80% area median income. So that'd be the family occupying the household must be making 80% median income or less. However, there is the option later on in this bylaw for the developer to put in an affordable unit that's equal to 60% area median income. One of the things we talked about in Newbury before that I know has been a concern of residents is how area median income is so high. So 80% AMI is pretty significant and is high in the town, you know, upwards of $80,000 a year for a one-person household. And so we really do see a strong need for the 60% AMI demographic to have housing. So one of the things we are talking about as well is allowing a developer to get 2 bonus market rate units in exchange for doing a 60% AMI unit instead of 1 bonus market rate unit for an 80% AMI unit. So trying to get some trade-off there to incentivize deeper affordability than just the standard 80% AMI. How to provide it, a couple options. The primary and preferred option as outlined in this bylaw is for them to provide the unit on site. And so if they're putting together a development, they would provide it within their development plan within their site. However, there is an option if they want to do the unit offsite, if they own other land and want to build an affordable unit elsewhere, or sometimes what we see is a developer will sell or donate a portion of their land to a nonprofit agency that would build the housing themselves. And so that way they are still providing the unit. It looks like it's on site because it's adjacent to the development, but technically that would be off site because it wouldn't be their land anymore. So allowing some flexibility for the developer to accommodate that affordable unit in what might not be the most straightforward way for them, which is just to build it as part of their process. But if they want to partner with an affordable housing agency, they can do that. A few pieces about the technical aspects of actually producing an affordable unit. They have to go through the Fair Housing Marketing Plan to show that they are reaching folks that might be eligible for the unit when it actually goes up for sale. They have to certify that the person occupying the unit is making the restricted area median income. And they have to work in partnership with the state to ensure that all of the lottery processes followed for getting that unit occupied follow standards as required by the state. And then at the end here, Section 7 is the density incentive I've been talking about the whole time, showing that if you allow to do one affordable unit at 80% AMI, then you are going to be allowed an additional market rate unit. And if you want to do an affordable unit at 60% AMI, you can build 2 additional market rate units. And in order to accommodate the additional unit and the density incentive, we will be waiving whatever applicable provision of the dimensional standards makes the most sense for that development. And that would be under a finding from the permit granting authority of the planning board when looking at the development plans. That was my quick summary, but happy to scroll back because I know it's a lot if you guys haven't heard all of it throughout the process, but happy to chat more and answer questions that you all have. But I will say, you know, Kristen, Martha, Sadie, chime in if I miss some key chunks here.
Thank you, Ian. Questions from the planning board? Pete?
No questions, thanks.
Larry?
Just a couple, Woody. Ian, the draft version we looked at the last meeting was dated January 20th. This is February 2nd. Were there substantive changes?
I can show you. I have a red line version. It wasn't anything too significant. The most significant was adding in the process section up top. I believe it was this one. No, not this one. Sorry. Just had it open here.
I can probably grab it if you don't have it
Yeah,
handy.
if you have it
Ian.
handy, Kristen. I thought I had it right away. But yeah, so one of the significant changes was the second section in the bylaw, which is process, articulating that the planning board would have to make a finding that the development yield plan, see that blue highlight there, complies with the provisions of the bylaw and that the changes to the dimensional standards properly accommodate for the additional market rate unit that would be included. And then there might have been one other change. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say I'm glad to see that because I was a little confused about the process last time.
Sure. And I think the bulk of that came from town council, so it's helpful to have her perspective there. And there might have been 1 or 2 other adjustments too down further, Kristen, if I... Yep, some just
yeah,
housekeeping
this
language.
one's, yeah. Yeah, I think
Cleaning up the density bonus piece.
yeah. I think we some of these changes at the end we moved things around a little bit. So essentially that was the primary thing, Larry, was after the last meeting when we sort of talked about making sure this bylaw is structured similar to other bylaws and making sure there's more clarity around like how it would actually happen, like what is the actual process. So we decided to, in conversation with town council, to make a whole section that identifies that.
Great. Thank you.
All right, you good, Larry?
Yeah.
Scott, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Steve, any questions for Ian?
Yeah, can you remind me again how the whether it's 60% or 80% adjusted median income is calculated, and when that number is set? Like it could take, years for development to actually go all the way through, and at that point the AMIs could change, and just how that works logistically, and who would be responsible for overseeing that, or when would the planning board be responsible for approving a number?
Yeah, so typically a developer works with the applicable state agency that's helping with the project. So there's the local action program that the state has through their Department of Housing and Livable Communities that helps with the marketing of the units and helps with setting the price of the ownership units. And that price isn't set until, I think it's the occupancy permit that triggers the actual look at what the price would be set at and what that median income is. So area median income is a number from HUD, from the US Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that is adjusted every year. And so you may be permitting the building one year, but they won't actually be looking at setting the income limit until I believe it's the occupancy permit, but I'd have to double check. Not until it's completed and being marketed for purchase.
Sure. So it's the time of sale, the time of renting. Okay.
Right. And Kristen, you just worked through that with a development, I think recently, or you're working through it right now with the MBTA district development. So you might know hands-on a bit more than me.
Yeah, the Cricket Lane, the 40B, has a couple phases of marketing the affordable units, and so all of those calculations are actually set at the time that the lottery is happening and the deadlines for the applications and stuff. So it is phased in as the units become available.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ian, for your presentation and going through all that with us. It looks very good.
I just want to quickly echo thanks, because this is, Ian and Kayla's help is through technical assistance grant funding that they work on for the whole region, and Newbury's been very grateful for the assistance. So it's been super helpful. Thanks, Ian.
Happy to. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Ian. At this time, I'd like to welcome Martha. Would you like to go through the rest of the zoning amendments?
Sure. I don't really have any new material to present to the board tonight. I do have a follow-up question from the last meeting, but just to kind of set the overview tonight, the hope is that the planning board will vote to refer the amendments, the zoning amendments that are being proposed to the select board, to have them refer back to the planning board for public hearing. So there is a letter that's been drafted, and it might be easiest to kind of go through that, and then I'll raise the question that I have. Would that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
So I'll see if I can pull that up here. So are you all able to see this, and is it big enough?
Yep.
So basically, the first part of the letter just kind of is explaining the process and confirming that the board has taken a vote, if a vote is taken tonight, to refer these to the select board with the request that they refer it back. And just to summarize sort of what we've been talking about to date, The first one is kind of a global set of amendments to all of the articles 2 through 11. In the existing bylaw, Article 1 was taken care of last year. So there are no changes to that, but these are all the amendments that are related to the recodification process that we've been discussing for a couple of years. We did phase 1 last year, phase 2 will be this year. And some of them are organizational changes to make the bylaw easier to navigate, to bring it into conformance with current statutes, current and pending regulations and new case law, and to clarify the intent of certain provisions. And then some technical changes to bring the bylaw into conformance with current practice and interpretation. And this will lead me to one of my questions, which is related to Article 2, and update and modernize certain terms and definitions. We've also relocated some definitions to be located with the bylaws that they're referring to, and then just going through and updating references. The second set of amendments that we've discussed are changes to the boundaries of several use districts. At the last meeting, we had talked about 3 districts, one a portion of the Commercial Highway A, which includes 12 Kent Way, and also the Parker River Marine District. I think the sense of the board at that time was not to move forward with the change to the Commercial Highway District at 17 Central Street, to move forward with the other 2. We've been having some internal discussions about that, and the purpose of making those changes was to, kind of clean up these boundaries of lots that are in 2 districts. So it seems like it might be beneficial to hold off on all of those changes right now. We could take a look at them a little bit more deeply. It might be a little confusing if we do some, not the others. And this also relates to one of the changes in the Article 2 language about lots that are split between 2 districts, and our building commissioner's current practice and interpretation, which is that whatever district covers the majority of the parcel, basically the regulations of that district pertain to the entire parcel. So in a sense, making the changes to the districts themselves becomes not quite as critical as it seemed previously. So one thought or one recommendation might just be to kind of pass on this particular thing this year and not do the boundary changes to any of the districts. So I don't know if I'm explaining that clearly enough, the reasoning why it might make sense to hold off, but I'd like to get some thoughts from the board on that one. It's just it's clear if we do all or if we do none at this point, I think.
Yeah. Well, under the circumstances, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it's it's certainly work that can be revisited at another time. It's not.
The circumstances with 17 Central, I guess we, in my opinion, we could pass this one by for annual town meeting this year.
I agree with you, Woody and Martha.
Okay. So we would then take this recommendation out of the letter and not vote to move forward with that.
Okay.
The next one was the amendments to the table of use regulations that we went through at the last meeting, which is referenced in Article 3, the use regulations. And those were to eliminate some inconsistencies between the table and various definitions and provisions of the bylaw. Also looking at revising the special permit granting authority for some uses. And there were a bunch of footnotes and things that were added to kind of clarify that people should refer to the overlay district regulations for for those. And then the biggest one really is the addition of a new Article 11, replacing the current Article 11, which is not replacing, but it will bump the numbering of the Article 11 administration. This is the clean energy facilities and related amendments to be in compliance with recent Act, Chapter 239 of the Acts of 2024 regarding clean energy permitting and siting. And this involves putting all of the clean energy bylaws into one new article, and also involves some major rewriting of the solar bylaw and a new battery energy storage system bylaw. And those sections of the table of use regulations would be in this article pertaining to those particular uses. And this article would also show the moving the wind energy and the solar from Article 5 special permit to this new clean energy bylaw.
Can I interject?
Go right ahead.
Sure.
Martha, can we go back to the table of use regulations just for a second?
Yeah.
If one of the other zoning articles fails to pass, is that going to cause an inconsistency in the table of use regulations and the bylaw, the zoning bylaw?
So I think the only one, and that's what I was trying to explain, probably not very well, is that we would hold off in the table of use regulations for kind of it would kind of get mentioned twice. So there would be the general table of use regulations, and then anything related to this clean energy facilities, it would be in that warrant article, so that if this gets voted down, it wouldn't be impacting kind of the general table. I don't know if I'm explaining it that very well, but it'd be kind of separated out.
I think you've answered my question. So
Okay.
we wouldn't need to be concerned about amending the article for the table of use regulations in the event that one of the other articles failed to pass.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. And we haven't really put all the articles together yet. This is, this was a first attempt at thinking how we might organize them. But, the goal is to not have that happen, to invalidate something if something else doesn't get passed. So basically, the rest of this is what I just discussed: the new clean energy facilities article, the relocation of wind energy and solar to that article, extensive revision of the ground-mounted solar PV, which we've looked at, and relocation to small wind from Article 10 to this new article, the addition of the battery energy storage systems and related amendments to the table of use regulations. And then the final one would be the addition of an inclusionary zoning bylaw.
Okay. Any questions or comments, anyone?
Yep. I have one, Martha. You referenced one of the articles, one of the state laws is, part of the underlying rationale for making some changes. And I'm wondering what happens if the state law is changed, or they do whatever to make it different than what we're looking at right now. Does that mean we're locked into what we're approving this year, and then have to, redo it again if we choose to be the same as the new state reg and law?
I think it would depend on the language, and that's probably something to discuss with town council. Usually there's some language in there saying, if it's a reference to a state law or regulation, it's tied into also any amendments that are made to that state law or regulation. So, but that's a good question.
Because that gets to be interesting, because if our regulations roll with unknown changes to be in the future of the state law, that could be an uncomfortable place to be if we had an issue with how the state was redoing or refining or whatever the existing act. We may not want to automatically adopt it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because we don't, it's also not good to have something that's inconsistent with state law. So, but it's a good question. I think it's something to discuss with town council on how we deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, my predilection is to freeze and say we're adopting what's in place at this time. And if the state changes things, then we'll make the changes as well after a review and comment and that sort of thing.
Right, and that's kind of what the process that we went through last year with the floodplain bylaw. The state had made changes and they wanted us to make changes that were consistent with, with how they were now looking at it. We went through that process and took it back to town meeting. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Speaking of town council, Martha, you're meeting with them again on Friday?
Well, we're not meeting with them, but that is the other thing I wanted to bring up. I mean, this is still an ongoing process of refining this. Town council is going to be reviewing the current draft on Friday, so there may still be some amendments. I don't anticipate anything substantive, but we're at the point now where the public hearing notice is going to be published, I believe, on February 18th. So at that point, the draft zoning language needs to be set for that public hearing, and the board will not be meeting again between now and that point. So the other question was, does the board have, is the board comfortable with Kristen and me continuing to work with town council and incorporating any edits that she may have?
I am, speak up if anyone is not, I guess.
I think
Unless we
that
have
makes
to
good
do-
sense.
Yep.
To just keep the process in an active state.
And
Very good.
just to repeat and confirm, but any edits that are made in the short term will be finalized before the public hearing, so that when the legal notice is published and in the newspaper, and there will be a document that's available for review, and that will be set in stone for what is considered at the public hearing. So all of that will be finalized in advance, which you all know, but just to say again.
Okay, so if no one else has any comments or questions, it sounds like we want to move forward with 4 out of 5 of these. Number 2 was the one that we discussed passing by, which was the boundaries bylaw.
Correct.
So I'm struggling a little bit with verbiage for a motion, but I'd entertain a motion to pass along the 4 zoning changes, zoning amendments to the select board, so that they could, with the request for them to refer back to the planning board for a public hearing.
And you have it.
Thank you, Larry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Roll call vote. Pete,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes, and nice job, Woody, on that one.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Martha, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Martha.
And we'll be
Thank you.
hearing back and going to a public hearing on all this. So thank you. All right, moving right along, hopefully. We've got a request for closeout for special permit for solar generating facility at 136 140R Main Street, Assessors Map, R41-0-42, applicant Standard Solar, applicant representative is Robert Rosine, Waterstone Engineering. Robert, are you with us? Hi, Robert.
I am here. Good evening.
All right, would you like to present what you have for us tonight?
Yeah, sure. Be happy to. All right. Good evening. For the record, my name is Robert Rosine from Waterstone Engineering. Nice to see some of you. It's been many years for some of you. We initiated this project back in 2016. I've been the civil engineer of record for 136 Main Street and 140R Main Street. There was a special permit issued in May of 2018, and that permit included 30 conditions. And it is my professional opinion that the project has been constructed in substantial compliance with those with those conditions and the approved plans, and we'd like to discuss that with you this evening. So just a quick little background, and I won't keep this long. The facility itself was mechanically complete in late 2021, and then we had sort of a right turn. We had a surprise that occurred regarding the need for a rear access road to the national grid point of interconnection, which essentially added about 2 years to the project. So that was a bridge, road, and wetland restoration was completed in late 2023. And here we are now, early 2026, seeking a permit closeout. I believe we've covered all the conditions, but of course you want to review and we answer any questions you have on that. The likely point of discussion that I'm sort of anticipating is for those who are familiar with the history of this project, probably one of the single largest items that was discussed was screening. And we could almost attribute a year of permitting to screening conversations. So the screening as it stands right now, I think is probably going to be deemed unacceptable by the planning board. The screening has not taken well, despite multiple attempts and involving arborists and third-party review and all of that. With that, I'm of the opinion that it's not for lack of due diligence or efforts or otherwise, but rather just the ecological conditions, really trying to plant in an understory where there's insufficient light and shallow groundwater conditions, and really not an issue of attempt. As I said, we've planted multiple times. It's been reviewed by arborists and third-party engineers, or third-party reviewers. So what I would like to suggest or ask that the board might consider would be that given those constraints, I think that a continued replanting is unlikely to achieve a different outcome. So what I'd like to suggest is that perhaps the board entertain directing resources to the town tree fund as we had done previously. There was a $48,000 payment that was made to the town tree fund for the 12 acres of clearing that was associated with this project initially. And so it's just one possible thought. Of course, I recognize that changing an approval condition is a big deal. So with that, I respectfully just recommend that the board close out the special permit, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Kristen, do you have any additional information to share with the board before I poll the board for questions?
No, just as Rob says, it's been a long process, most of which I was not a part of. So I appreciate that, his been very helpful in summarizing and providing all the materials, and I'm still reviewing them, but
There's a lot.
that was a good summary of where we are, and I think the board should consider moving forward as you have with any closeout, reviewing the conditions, considering in, the majority of closeouts, probably all closeouts, you generally hold a site visit. So we could talk about that, considering the snow cover and things. But just, Rob's also closing out with the CONSCOM. So I think that's something I've been in touch with Mason, the conservation agent, about, and making sure we're working together as the two boards.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. I'll turn to the board. Pete, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, this is how I started on the board 10 years ago. Was with this
Hi,
group.
Pete. Long time no see.
Yes, Rob. I do recall a lot of this, and yes, we did have a lot of discussions about screening. I think it'd be very helpful to kind of review what the environmental people have said about this, so that we can get a handle on that. I hate throwing money at something without a solution, quite honestly. And if there's another way to think of this or another way to look at it, I think that might be helpful. But it's been a while since we looked at it. But I think a site walk is definitely in order. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to coordinate that, since we do have a little bit of snow cover that might be a bit of an obstacle. But that's my thoughts right now. What do you?
Thank you, Pete.
Larry, question, comments?
I understand that the as-built are still under peer review. Is that correct?
Yes, they are still under peer review.
And as far as the vegetative screening goes, what you say Robert, may make perfect sense, but it sounds to me like what we're really talking about here is a modification of the decision. Now, we could talk about whether it's major or minor. Frankly, I wasn't on the board when it was originally decided. Sounds like a major modification, though, which would require a public hearing. So I don't know how we can close it out in the face of that. Anybody got any ideas?
No.
It's a very valid comment, Larry. It is a major modification. It's not a minor modification.
Yep.
I mean,
It does
I hate to echo what you said, Pete.
Yep.
Yeah.
I appreciate the comment. I guess I would just say, I'm not sure, we haven't had a specific ask for what the modification is, so I'm not quite sure we know yet whether it's a major or minor modification. I know Rob suggested a payment in lieu, but there's we don't have a specific request on what that would look like, so that could determine whether it was major or minor.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, what his suggestion may make absolutely perfect sense, but how do we close out a project if in the face of a modification, whether it be major or minor, right? Without voting on the modification?
Yes, I agree that would need to happen.
Yeah,
but
so
we can't. I guess my comment was just to clarify, we don't know yet what that vote would be.
Anything else, Larry? I can circle back if you want to.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, my issue is it's procedurally. I just don't see how we go forward with a closeout. That's all. And I'm sure you're tired of this after 10 years. And
so,
Okay.
Larry, if you're
if I could.
saying if the board has to vote a modification, it's not a minor modification, meaning administrative. It would be a major modification. And that would require a public hearing.
major modification would definitely require a public hearing, and a minor modification. I mean, just look at the Sunset Club and what the ZBA did. You know, they had to go before them, and that was considered a minor modification, but they said they held a series of hearings on it. I mean, I'm not trying to make work here, but I just don't know how you close out something when you know you have what sounds to me, again, not having been on the board during the initial public hearing, sounds to me like it's probably major. Maybe, let's say for the sake of argument, it's a minor modification. We need a request for a modification.
If I could, it's my understanding that a minor modification could be handled as either an administrative amendment or a staff level sign off. That a major modification would require going back to public hearing.
Well, I think you're kind of right and kind of wrong. At least my understanding. If it's a field change, that can be done at the staff level. Usually for a minor modification, it comes before the board, not as a public hearing, but as on the agenda for a determination that it's a minor modification and a green light to the modification. Then if it's considered a major modification, then that triggers the whole public hearing thing, notice to abutters, etc.
Well, maybe one option is to just leave a performance bond in place ad infinitum. I mean, I don't know how else we close that out.
Scott, do you have any other questions or comments? No. Steve?
Well, other than I think we would need a proposal, right?
Yeah. But let's start with that. Send us a letter proposing the modification. Send it to town council for town council's review. And if town council says it can be done at an administrative level, great. If town council says no, it's a minor modification, or it has to go before the board to determine if it's a minor or a major modification, then we'll be, guided by town council's advice.
I think that's the right path.
So a question for Kristen. Do you think what I have sent currently is sufficient for that? We've submitted a letter that is a documentation of completion for special permit, and in that there is the recommendation that we do exactly that. That we this go to a tree fund. No, we don't list an amount. Or otherwise, but there was a process that was established during the original permitting that we could dust off and update. But maybe less important than the actual amount is just the idea of it being used of using a tree fund. So I guess my question is, as it is now, is that sufficient for you to share with town council?
Yes, I believe it is if that is the requested modification. I think yes.
Yeah, okay.
It is. It is sufficient. I think I had been thinking that the board might want to discuss what would be the preferred modification, but I think you have made a suggestion, a proposal, and we have that, and we can consider that, and that is sufficient for that step.
My
only thought on that would be unless the board has a better suggestion. I'm only suggesting that because it seems to me the best at this point. But if there's something that the board prefers or thinks would be a better path, we're certainly open to that. So I guess I'd sort of ask the board's recommendation on that one.
All right, Larry, you were going to say something?
No, I would be comfortable with just forwarding that letter to town council to see what she has to say about it. Because I mean, think about what we're talking about. If I understood the discussion earlier, You spent a year talking about vegetative screening, and admittedly, you can't meet that condition. But if you spend all that time talking about vegetative screening, it can't be, you know, it can't be, we can't just brush it away, you know? And
Pete.
frankly, if town council says this is fine, do it administratively, great, wonderful. I'll be surprised if that's the answer, but at least we can get some direction on how to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Pete, did you have something else you want to say, or are you good?
I think I'm good for now.
All right. And the only other thing I'd like to say is that one of the conditions of the special permit was for plowing 8 inches or more. And there's 8 inches of snow. We got more than 8 inches of snow, and there's still more than 8 inches on the ground, and the road, the access way has not been plowed.
Okay.
So
I'll make sure I
we
pass
could
that.
we could talk about going on a sidewalk, but we can't get there because it's not plowed.
Right.
So never mind for emergency situations up there
Right.
or whatnot. So that's one condition I see not being met as well. So
Okay. Thank you.
all right. At that note, I guess you know what to do next, Rob, and we'll see where to go from there, and you can be in contact with Kristen.
Yeah. I think that sounds fine. So I guess the only other piece in there is if we want to schedule a site walk, and maybe we just delay that until we hear back from town council and let the weather do its magic for a while.
Yep. All right. Very
Okay.
good. If the road was plowed, I mean, I think we could entertain a site walk because we could get close to the field, but
It's actually a fairly long walk out there, but we can certainly get it plowed. I mean, that it should be plowed anyhow. And so I would say if we want to do a site walk, let's schedule one now, and they should be plowing it. So there's no excuses on that.
all right, we'll work with Kristen on the sidewalk administratively. We're not going to figure out a date and time.
Okay.
Right now.
That sounds great.
All right.
Hey, Woody, if I could, Rob, you said that there had been materials submitted by people who have been reviewing this and why it failed because of the soil. And if you could submit that information, just those reports over the years, just so the board could have an opportunity to digest that material rather than just being told it, but actually look at the correspondence and review that stuff, that'd be great.
Sure. So I just want to clarify, it's not that there's been reassessments done over the years. What I meant was that part of the approval requirement was that we engaged an arborist in the process, and that the arborist was used to produce the landscaping plan, which was then reviewed and approved by your third party, and that was the independent process. And then there was a second round of planting, but there's been no new landscaping plan or soils or any of that stuff done. The statement about high groundwater and low light is just my observations.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Rob.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
Moving along. Next order of new business. Request for extension of subdivision approval and common driveway special permit. Colantoni Crossing. 5-lot subdivision, 108 Main Street. Applicant John Colantoni. Triple Q Inc. John, are you with us?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, John. Please update us on the status of your project and your request, please.
Yeah, so for the record, I'm John Colantoni. Thank you for having us on the agenda, and want to thank Kristen for getting us through the process. As you know, this has been a project that has been there a while. And we just want to give an update and let the planning board know that we're fully committed, and now we're uh, getting ready to start. We would have even started harder, but the snowstorm hit. But even with that, we've started out there. We have the big machine back. Our original site company was Fraser Company. You might remember that. They're local out of the North Shore, but the owner retired and closed down the company. So we had to bring in another site company. So we're very excited and happy that we have Cinema Contracting Corp. So that will be the site company doing the road and everything, and the lots, family owned, father son. So it's great. And then we have most of the original team, Donahue Survey, who's been out there recently reflagging the wetlands as conservation wanted. We have Maureen Harold from Norse Environmental for our conservation needs. And we have Thad Berry, the engineer from ASB Design, who was the original engineer on the whole approval process. So we're ready to go. And like I said, we're started. Conservation, I think you might know this, but they gave us a 3-year extension with a couple conditions. Those conditions we already did. We had Donahue Survey reflag the wetlands, and then they wanted all the erosion control fixed or redone. So that's been completely done as well. So both those things were accomplished, and thank God we got it done before the snowstorm. So that was a success, because it never would have been able to be done after the snowstorm. So I'd like to ask the board for an extension so we can, finally get this done. I apologize that we're coming and asking for an extension, but the last time I was in front of you about this, there was a concern. I think Peter on the board brought it up that, would start some other project that we were getting approvals for. I made a promise that we would not do that we take our projects in order. We haven't started any other new projects. We're finishing up on the Parish Road project and the 51 West Main Street project and our Danvers subdivisions. And now we're ready to rock and roll because we're at the end of those. I not sure if there's a rule on how long we can ask for, if that's something the planning board could help me with. I don't know if you can ask for 3 or 2 or 1, or if there's any particular rule on that. So I throw that out there.
Okay, thank you, John. Kristen, before I ask the board for questions, do we have any additional information that you want to share with the board on this?
So similar to the last project, it's taken me a little time to get up to speed. So I have had conversations with former planning director Martha Taylor and town council, as well as talking with the conservation agent about this project and with John Colantoni. The board approved a 2-year extension on this project in June of 2024. That approval, that vote was contingent on the applicant filing what's called the Form D for the performance covenant. John just filed that this week. So we now have a signed, recorded, filed Form D, which was the requirement as part of that approval in June of 2024. So that extension was granted until February 17th of 2026. So it's not February 17th yet. That's a good thing. Thank you, John, for, forwarding and completing that work. I do think in this case, I would, so the board needs to consider giving another extension. The extension would need another Form D as a part of that it documents what the extension date is and also gets recorded. Reminder, this is both a subdivision and a special permit for the common driveway as part of the subdivision. So we're talking about both instruments. Town council's recommendation, considering the sort of history of the project starting and stopping, would be whether the board might want to consider getting an updated, very clear construction schedule for the project. We don't have that today. So one consideration is the board could give sort of a month-long extension, enough time for John to bring that back to the board, for it to be reviewed. In most cases, we could loop our peer review engineer in for that construction schedule review, have Joe Serwaka review it and approve it. I think we would certainly want a pre-construction conference. The other updating that John has done with the Conservation Commission this fall to get their extension approval was to confirm the wetlands on the property. And Woody, you're part of the commission, so correct me if I get this wrong, but my understanding is that was done. Let me just look, actually. So I don't think a revised ANRAD was submitted, and John Contoni, correct me, is that true? But just on site, the wetlands were reflagged, and that happened before the snowstorm?
Yeah, that happened way before the snowstorm, and then the erosion control was redone. I might be a little off on this, 2 or 3 weeks. It was sort of in between the two snowstorms, but it was done before the big snowstorm, so that worked out well. I'm not familiar, or do I think we had to submit anything else? We had to do those two things. I think Maureen, our conservation person, sent in an email to Mason. I don't think anything else had to be done. If something else has to be done, obviously we will jump all over it and do it, but I don't think there was anything else that had to be done. And I also just wanted to thank you, Kristen, for bringing up what was recorded. I was not aware that wasn't recorded, last year. It's something that slipped through the cracks with the attorney, and because the attorney takes care of that stuff. So I apologize for that. So that's why when Kristen and I talked and I found out it wasn't, I didn't want the board to think there was any, funny business, and I wanted to get that recorded immediately, which shows the February 17th date that would, expire. So I apologize that was done so close, but didn't want to think anything was going on there.
Okay, thank you, John. And I recall those two conditions was what Maureen said in our Conservation Commission meeting back last fall. But I do not know, I have not gotten confirmation that those have been done, but that can be easily checked in with Mason to see if he's had gotten out there to inspect those before this snowstorm hit.
And I just, yeah. So I don't think he got out there to inspect the erosion control before the snow. But okay. I just want to clarify, I don't think there's anything outstanding with the commission. But my question about the delineation is related to the subdivision decision, which requires that 80% of each lot has contiguous upland. So one of the questions I've talked about with Mason is if any of the delineation changed in any substantial way, which he does not think it did, but that's the question that the planning board should confirm, is that all of the lots are still legally lots related to the wetlands and the amount of upland on each parcel. So
I can help with that a
that's
little
where I
bit.
was going there. Yeah.
Yeah. The wetland line, as I call it, hasn't changed at all. Donahue Survey, who did the original work and who will be for the whole project, and they do great work, is the one that went back out there to check that and to reflag. So, luckily, and knock on wood, nothing has changed out there. So, unless I don't understand something correctly, if the wetland line hasn't changed, then the upland and everything would remain the same as well. So I think, we're good there. And I also, I agree with Kristen, not Mason's fault, but I don't think he got out there before the snowstorm, because I don't even know if he knew if it was done at that point. But we did send a video and all sorts of pictures, showing the new erosion control and everything. So.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go to the board now. John, Pete, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do, Woody. Thanks very much. Kristen, I appreciate your comments very much. I was just looking back over the notes of this project and all the emails that you've had with the applicant, and so we started this back in 2020, and then, COVID happened and everything. So we had this extension granted in 2024. And over the past 2 years, I've seen numerous emails where you were requesting this Form D, and it appeared today. With that said, that's the actual facts on the ground. I think very straight guidelines are very, very important with this particular situation. This site was disturbed a number of years ago. And as a result, both abutters on either side have been affected by the disturbed area, as well as the community overall seeing this disturbed area for the past number of years. So I think having a very strict construction schedule, and that schedule to come to this board in 4 weeks so that it can be reviewed. The board can, in the interim, give a 4-week extension, and then at the conclusion of that time, review this schedule and then make a further determination. I think it's very important, John, that things be done appropriately. This form was asked for 2 years, and I have all the emails right in front of me here. So for it to appear today, I feel a little slanted by it. So that's all I'm going to say about it. And that's my only comment at this point in time. Thanks, Woody.
All right, Larry, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I agree with Pete. It's time to get this done, to move forward. I don't have a sense that this project has been on the front burner, and I think it's time to move it along. But I like the suggestion of the construction schedule and the 4-week extension.
Thank you, Larry. Scott?
I'm in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Steve?
Same, a 4-week extension seems like a nice hard deadline, which is doable.
All right, I'm in agreement with everything that's been said by all of you to construction schedule, and timeline, and pre-meeting, meeting after the 4-week extension, and we grant a further extension. So when you start the project, a pre-construction meeting and a review by Joe Chewacca. So, Kristen, our next step, I guess, would be to grant a 4-week extension, and we'll put him on the agenda for our meeting in 4 weeks.
Yeah, my only comment about that is March 4th is the public hearing for the zoning amendments.
Okay.
And we also just continued Sunset Club to that date. So it will be a busy agenda. So just wanted to mention that.
Well, can I ask a couple questions?
All right, 1 sec, John. In fairness, do we grant a 6-week extension to accommodate for our meeting schedules? And that also gives John the time it takes to have a good construction plan for us. Does it sound good to everybody? I thought Pete nodded his head.
Yeah,
I think that's
a good
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, John, real quick, if you've got a couple questions.
the first question is, you know, basically what you're saying is, if it's a 6-week extension, 4-week extension, 8-week extension, whatever it may be, you don't want us doing any work there over these 6 to 8 weeks? Like,
Not
because
without,
two things. One, what was said that this wasn't at the front burner, 100% correct. And when I was in front of the board last time for the extension, I made it clear that the size company that we are, we have to take things in pecking order. And Parish Road has been a bear. So we took it in the pecking order. Now it is at the front burner, and we're ready to go. And Peter, I apologize that you feel slighted about that form just appeared. When those emails went back and forth before, I thought it was taken care of by the attorney. So that's why I was like, what do you mean it's not recorded? I'm not going in front of the planning board and they think that we didn't record something to try to have a gray area of this deadline on the 17th. So even though that's only a couple weeks away, we're going to record it. So trying to do the right thing. But what I would like to ask of the board, which is maybe a compromise of what you just said, is we have no problem giving a construction schedule for this board to review and approve. But why not do that as a condition? And if now we have to have another pre-construction meeting, because we had one way back, but we have no problem doing another pre-construction meeting, allow us to try to put that together in the next week or two so we don't waste another 2 months of work. Because now this is the front burner.
well, these were recommendations from council, and we haven't seen any front burner work, so to speak, to date, other than the refreshment of the erosion control for conservation.
We've already been doing work on the site since last week.
I've driven by, I drive by there almost every day. I've seen an excavator go up over the hill and come back and park, and I was surprised it started in this cold weather, but we have no confirmation of any work that's been done in the last couple of weeks.
Would someone like to walk the site with me? I mean, I'm not going to be at a public planning board meeting lying.
John, I just want to say, until that Form D was recorded, you did not have an extension that was legal.
Kristen, I would never argue that point. Did I understand that legally? No, but it makes sense with what you're saying.
Pete, would you like to say something?
I think we have a plan and we should probably continue with that plan that's been given and follow the guidance of council.
I'd entertain a motion to put John on the agenda in 6 weeks and grant him an extension for the next 6 weeks, pending a construction plan and then the pre-meeting and a review from Joe Schwatka to follow.
You have a motion.
Thank you, Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Pete,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Thank
So,
you, John,
Mr.
and I go right ahead.
One more question. Thank you very much. So I don't think any of my ideas went against what town council is saying. With that said, thank you for the 6-week extension. We'll put together the construction schedule. Kristen, you can tell me what meeting to have that ready for, or send it into you ahead of time for the board to review, but what meeting that you want us at. And I guess my question is, and I don't think this would be against town council or the board, is could I schedule a pre-construction meeting, over the next couple of weeks even though we might not be able to do any work until you approve or critique the construction schedule, but at least I wouldn't have to wait 6 weeks or 8 weeks, after that to have it. So at least we could hit the road running once you approve the construction schedule. I don't think there should be anything wrong with that.
I don't know the answer to that question, but does he have till the 17th to work, or is that all null and void now? I don't know the answer to that question.
If the board doesn't want me to work until you have a construction schedule, and like, I don't want to go against the board, and I don't, but all I'm saying is, it sounds like you really don't want me to do any work until you approve the construction schedule, and it's after the 6 weeks, when we come back. All I'm asking is, could we have the pre-construction meeting in the meantime, which isn't going to start any work, but at least everyone will be familiar what's going on, updated again, and all that. So at least the full 6 weeks isn't wasted.
Is that something you can facilitate, Kristen?
I think that's fine. I think we can get going with the next steps as soon as we get going with them. I do think, we should clarify what date you're asking for an extension for, and that would obviously be part of the construction schedule that gets reviewed, and that should all be considered together on behalf of the planning board. But I'm happy to work on, connections with peer review to review things and get out there and have a site visit as part of that pre-construction meeting.
Kristen, I would also, offer that if John could produce, a schedule and plan, to the board, sooner than later. If I was contacted, I could come into the, to the hall and sit down with you and just review the plan. I do have a certain level of expertise there that might be able to help expedite or make a recommendation to the remaining board members in anticipation of getting together 6 weeks from, I guess, tonight, as well as potentially getting out there, pre that 6 week meeting, with I guess another pre-construction meeting. I'm assuming we already had one, right?
I believe it was in 2022.
Yeah, we had one a long time ago before we started doing anything there. And peer review was on site at the time.
Okay, that's just an offer to assist and help out. So I'm not sure if that needs a vote or whatever, but happy to do it.
Okay, and we're looking at March 18th for being on the agenda again, because March 4th is busy and the construction schedule timeline should come in. Go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. That's a good meeting to come to. March 18th, I would suggest the extension is till March 20th, because what we'll want to do is make sure the vote happens on the 18th, and then we file it with the clerk, and off we go.
Okay.
So the documents need to be filed and recorded after the vote on the 18th. So I think if the extension is to March 20th, that'll give us that time to do that. Make sure it happens.
Could I make a suggestion? Could we have the extension till the end of March? March 18th meeting is fine. I just worry in regard to, the attorney has to get involved, and if we had another big snowstorm or some crazy thing in March and things shut down for 2 days, like I get nervous of that 48-hour window from March 18th to March 20th. That's all.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Well, let's do this. We'll do another vote right now. I'd entertain a motion to extend this until March 31st, 2026, and we will get you on the agenda, obviously, the 18th.
I would accept that modification to the original motion.
Thank you, Pete. Larry? Well,
I'll second that.
all right, thank you, Larry. Pete?
Yes. Yes, and thank you,
Larry?
Scott.
Scott
Yes.
and Steve.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, John. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the time.
And that being the end of our business this evening, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. Have a second?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Pete. All those in favor, Pete, Scott, Larry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Yeah.
have a good night. Thank you, Kristen, for everything. And we'll see you all
Thanks, everybody.
in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Woody.